Under a skyline streaked by late October light, New York City wakes to the hum of anticipation. Election day has arrived, and with it, the kind of political theatre only this city can stage. Street corners buzz with canvassers, subways rattle with campaign flyers clutched in tired hands, and television screens in diners flicker between sports highlights and breaking election coverage. The air feels charged, restless, alive. Zohran Mamdani, a 3-4-year-old state legislator from Queens, steps into a cultural centre on the Lower East Side. The cameras follow as he greets a room full of elderly New Yorkers. His message is one of inclusion and economic fairness, a pitch that has resonated in neighbourhoods squeezed by rising rents and vanishing affordability. His voice carries over the quiet chatter. I've heard from so many seniors how they're being pushed out of the city that they helped to build. Applause follows, soft at first, then swelling, echoing against the walls, lined with faded community posters. Outside, a group of volunteers unfurl banners. They call him a new voice for New York. But beyond the boroughs in Washington, that voice has already provoked a fierce response. President Donald Trump has issued a warning: if Mamdani wins, federal funding for New York could be cut. We're not going to bankroll socialist experiments, Trump declares aboard Air Force One, addressing reporters en route to a rally in Ohio. This man is a communist candidate, a lunatic. New York deserves better. His words, sharp and incendiary, ripple across media outlets. Within hours, talk shows debate whether the statement constitutes political interference or legitimate fiscal caution. Mandani, when asked to respond, remains measured. The people of New York decide what's best for New York, he says, not Washington. At Forest Hill Stadium in Queens, the progressive energy surrounding his campaign reaches its zenith. The stage lights wash over him as he holds hands with Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The crowd roars thousands strong, waving placards and chanting his name. The moment is electric, signaling a generational and ideological shift in one of America's most storied cities. Sanders leans into the microphone and says this election is not just about New York, it's about what kind of future we want for working people everywhere. Meanwhile, his opponent, Andrew Cuomo, enters the LaGuardia Performing Arts Center before the final debate. Once a towering figure in New York politics, Cuomo's decision to run as an independent after losing the Democratic primary has divided the electorate. To his supporters, he represents experience and stability. To critics, he embodies the political establishment. Mamdani's movement aims to upend. Cameras flash as he greets reporters, his familiar half smile concealing a hint of frustration. Outside, Curtis Sliwa, the Republican candidate and longtime radio host, addresses a handful of loyal followers. His campaign, colourful but underfunded, is rooted in law and order populism. He speaks of rising crime and collapsing civic order, invoking nostalgia for a tougher New York. But according to the polls, Sliwa's chances are slim. As the city's polling stations open, the contrast between the candidates could not be sharper. Mamdani's rallies are filled with the language of equity and justice. His supporters speak of rent control, community housing, and healthcare expansion. Cuomo's speeches focus on experience, pragmatism, and steady hands in turbulent times. Sliwa's rhetoric appeals to those yearning for a return to what he calls the real New York. But what makes this race truly extraordinary is its symbolism. For decades, New York has been a microcosm of America's political soul, a place where Wall Street meets working-class grit and where cultural movements ignite national debates. If Mamdani wins, he would not only become the city's first openly Muslim mayor, but also its youngest in generations, a historic milestone that would redefine what power looks like in modern America. The federal threat looms large, though. Trump's remarks about withdrawing funding send shockwaves through City Hall. Economists warn that such a move could freeze billions in infrastructure and social services. Legal analysts debate whether the president even has the authority to enforce such a threat without congressional backing. Yet the effect is immediate uncertainty ripples through financial markets, and New York's mayoral race becomes a national story. Across boroughs, Conversations turn from local issues to national implications. In Harlem, a cafe television replays Trump's comments as customers shake their heads. He's punishing us before we've even voted, one woman says. In Brooklyn, Mamdani's volunteers regroup, rallying their base with renewed energy. This is why we fight, a young organizer shouts through a megaphone. They fear what we represent: justice, inclusion, and power for the people. As evening falls, the city glows with election night expectancy. Manhattan's skyline flickers in television blues and reds. Reporters fill press rooms, commentators speculate on turnout, and helicopters circle above Times Square. Inside campaign headquarters, Mamdani's team watches results trickle in, precinct by precinct. Early numbers show him leading narrowly, but the race remains too close to call. Meanwhile, in Washington, Trump's social media posts continue to dominate headlines. If Mamdani wins, New York loses, he writes. Within minutes, it trends globally. Political analysts note that Trump's comments may have galvanized opposition as much as support. It's a gamble, says one veteran correspondent. Threatening New York could backfire. It's not a city that takes kindly to ultimatums. The voice of the city is unmistakable tonight, a chorus of languages, opinions, and hopes colliding. Taxi drivers tune their radios to live results. In Queens, fireworks go off prematurely. In the Bronx, a watch party breaks into song. Mamdani, appearing briefly before his supporters, strikes a cautious but defiant tone. No matter the result tonight, he says, we have already changed the conversation. We've proven that every neighborhood, every voice matters, and that New York's heart still beats for justice. As midnight approaches, the margin narrows. Cuomo gains in Staten Island and parts of Manhattan. Sliwa, though far behind, remains vocal, calling the election a circus run by socialists. The networks prepare for a long night. Yet, beyond the statistics and speeches, something larger has unfolded, a confrontation between two visions of America. On one side, a grassroots movement demanding transformation. On the end, other, an entrenched establishment backed by federal power, warning of instability. In the quiet hours past midnight, the story of this election becomes clear. Whatever the final vote count, New York has once again asserted its identity: unpredictable, diverse, defiant. A city that resists being told what to do, even by a president. As dawn rises over the East River, the sun reflects off glass towers and tenement windows alike. The campaign posters flutter in the cold morning breeze. For millions, the outcome will shape not just city policy, but the national mood heading into the next presidential race. For Trump, it is a test of influence. For Mamdani, a test of conviction. For New York, as always, a test of resilience. And in the streets where it all began, Queens, Harlem, the Lower East Side, people gather once more, waiting for the final word, believing, perhaps for the first time in years, that their city still belongs to them.